First of all, welcome to my office at the Rife Center in Columbus, right across the street from the Ohio State House. And this has been an incredible journey, Joe. I'm in my second year of my first term. It's been an incredible journey, and I'm excited to share with folks what that year has been like. But you ask a really good question. I think a lot of people, when they heard that I put my name in to run for the House of Representatives, wondered, oh my goodness, has she always thought about this? We thought maybe it would be the other Miller. And to be honest, when I look back at my journey of running for Miss Ohio, I ran for Miss Ohio for 2 years. The second year at the state competition, I won the title at 20 years old. So, and I will tell you, a big part of running for Miss Ohio was fundraising. And I remember when I was 16 was really when I got interested in pageants. I lived in the city of Brook Park, and I wanted to be Miss Brook Park. And the role of Miss Brook Park was being an ambassador for the community. And at 16, when I won that pageant, community service pageant, I went everywhere with the mayor of Brook Park. So when I look back at my life at 16, I feel like the Lord started planting the seed of working alongside my elected officials and getting a love for public service and community service, altruism, because I know that altruism benefits communities, and I fell in love with serving. And so when I ran for Miss Ohio, I worked alongside my local elected officials. They helped me learn how to raise money and have fundraisers, and so that's how I got started. And really, I think it kind of began there. There's a lot of similarities between pageants and politics. And so when I was introduced to my future husband, the mayor of Ashland, who would have thought I'd marry a mayor one day? And it all started as Miss Brook Park working alongside the mayor. We had a lot in common. A lot of the same qualities, characteristics, the heart for service, heart for people really came from my role as being Miss Ohio. It's all about you dedicate your life to a year of service and a platform that you're passionate about, a topic. And so I really believe my love began there for maybe politics in the future. Well, I'm going to back up because we, as new members of the Ohio General Assembly, the very first session day is a few days into the month of January, where we all officially take the oath of office during our first session. But before that, because this was my very first time and I did not get here by myself, there were so many people in our community that knocked doors for me, that helped support my campaign financially, talk to friends and neighbors. Nobody is self-made when it comes to this. I could not do this without the people of Ashland and Medina counties and the 67th House District believing in me and wanting me to be here to represent your values. But so one of the things that I wanted to do to make it special, because we did this together, we had this victory together, was we had a private swearing in ceremony a few days before the official that we did as new members. So at the end of December, before the new year, we held a private service in the atrium, and particularly the service was in the rotunda. And my husband, Matt, held the Bible for me, and our Secretary of State, Frank LaRose, administered the oath of office right in the center of the rotunda. And I will be honest, I was so nervous. And I remember when I put my hand on the Bible and I put my right hand up and repeated after him, and he said the first few words. I barely could get the words out of my mouth because the weight of the oath that I was speaking was heavy, and I knew it was a huge responsibility. So there's a reverence that I have for this position, and it is the greatest honor of my life to represent the people of the 67th House District. So I wanted the people who were a part of this journey to have that private ceremony with me, to experience that. And then we broke bread together. We had a wonderful luncheon, and our family and friends were able to do a private tour of the State House while it was decorated so beautifully for the holidays, for Christmas. And then officially had that first day in the new year for the first session. So it's been an incredible journey, let me tell you. The very first day, I can't remember the date offhand, Joe, it was the first few days of January of 2023 is when we took the oath of office as a General Assembly. After we all do that, the very first order of business is to vote on the new Speaker of the House. That's done every General Assembly. And there were some things that were done a little differently this time around. We, as a caucus, we voted for the individual back in November before we took the oath of office of the individual we wanted to represent us. We did that at a private ballot, and we had a gentleman that we thought was going to be our Speaker of the House moving forward. And on day one, the individual who was not the one that we had chosen in our caucus stood forward first, and then that individual became the Speaker. So I think from day one, I realized right away that I am someone, and many of my colleagues are men and women of their word. They are men and women of honor and integrity, and not everybody operates in that way. And so it was an eye-opener for me on day one to know where people stood. And I certainly do not want my legacy, or I do not want to be remembered as somebody who flounders or cannot be trusted, and as somebody is not of their word. So that was a really good life lesson for me on day one. When you say you're going to do something, you move forward with it. And I try to return everyone's phone calls. If I don't, it's simply because I haven't gotten to it yet. But that was a huge life lesson for me on day one, and really set the tone for how to move forward. And I think one of the things I've learned moving forward is you got to work together with everybody in order to get things done. And so you address things head on with individuals if they've wronged you or you don't understand, but then you move forward. And because the people in your district are counting on you, and that's the only way we can move things forward for the people of Ohio and the people of our district. I definitely would say I feel a lot more comfortable in my role now as I am rounding out my second year of my first term. I think probably the first 6 months or so, getting through the very first order of business at the beginning of the General Assembly was the transportation budget and then the operating budget. Those are really big tasks at hand. And so I feel like after those first 6 to 7 months of really doing the real work for people of Ohio and learning the process, it's really important. I'm one that I observe. I like to take notes. I like to find people who've been doing this a lot longer than me to serve as a mentor and ask questions. And so I feel a lot more confident in my role. As I mentioned, the beginning, opening day of our General Assembly was a little unexpected, but it was good. I felt like I jumped 2 feet in, ready to go, and there's been a lot about the process that I feel a lot more comfortable with, just the parliamentary procedures of session to our committee processes, just how do you begin the bill process. We have it's called the Legislative Service Commission. They work specifically for the legislature to help us with research, help us with drafting bills. And so that has been an exciting process to learn. I also have really worked hard through the campaign and in this first term to really build relationships among our different agencies and liaisons, as well as people in the district, because I am one person. I come with my own unique experience, but I don't know everything about every topic. No person possibly can. So I've really tried to do the work to build those relationships, so when there are constituent issues that we need to work through, we know who we can contact in the district or at one of our state offices with a particular liaison, and can work to address and solve some of those challenges that people in the district are experiencing. So I definitely feel a lot more confident. I don't certainly feel that I know it all in any way, shape, or form. I think it's always important to be a learner and always to be a student. And especially one of the greatest honors I've had this past year is the speaker appointed me to be the chairwoman of the technology and innovation committee. And that is definitely an area that has been really interesting to learn about, to be on the committee, to hear bills, but then to also have meetings with people that this is what they do. And in technology and innovation is so broad. And what does that look like for Ohio? So I also, what I love about this role too is diving into things that I'm maybe not an expert in, but I love to learn. And it's where the future is. And I am dedicated to hopefully being one of those people in the legislature that when legislation is needing to be drafted or cultivated, that people will come to Representative Miller to be able to provide insight into those specific topics. So it's been fun. It's been a role that I've really been stretched in, but I love every single moment, and I'm honored to be here. So it's been a busy year. Many of the representatives sit on numerous committees, and they are appointed by the Speaker of the House. So this year I have 4 committee appointments. So I am serving as the Vice Chair of Families and Aging. I also sit on Economic and Workforce Development and Health Provider Services. And then recently, in May, the Speaker promoted me to the chair of the Technology and Innovation Committee. Before, I was a member of the committee and then was promoted to chair, which was very exciting. I love the committees that I'm on. I really feel that with my background and the work that I love, I'm able to be an asset on those committees, but it's also been a great learning experience as well. Now, I will tell you another neat opportunity that I had within my first year as a legislator was having an opportunity to travel to Israel for a little over a week for, they called it our House trade mission trip to Israel. And many people may not realize, but Israel is the most innovative country in the entire world, from their military to agriculture to business to medicine, and the list goes on and on. We were able to see firsthand the great work Israel is doing. And in Ohio, what's really unique is we're uniquely positioned. We have a lot of partnerships with Israel. Israel is an incredible country, and it was an honor to see firsthand, from Jerusalem to Bethlehem, all of the communities. It was really neat to see this country firsthand. And quite honestly, on a personal note, traveling to Israel has been a desire of my heart since I was a young girl, and always prayed for the opportunity. And what better opportunity to go to be able to do legislative work, and also to experience some of the holy sites where Jesus walked, which was very special and near and dear to my heart to experience that. So I won't give you all the details about our trip to Israel, but it was an incredible firsthand look at how we can learn from Israel and how we can implement that and make our work more efficient here in the state of Ohio, depending on the different industries. A really cool thing I will mention, one of the visits we went to Bethlehem, and these are towns that I read about, and here I am visiting these towns. We went to a company called Alpha and Omega, and they are a medical company that they have created a technology. It's as thin as maybe the string on a violin. Like a stint, real thin. We got to go into the factory where they're actually administering these, and it's actually a stint, if you will, that is put on the brain for people with Parkinson's. And there is an electronic device, if you will, that you can turn that on at certain times that will help the shaking disappear. So we got to see firsthand a professional violinist, musician that had these tremors from Parkinson's, and when he turned on that switch, he could play perfectly again, with no tremors, no movement. And we have that technology right here in Ohio because Ohio has invested in Israel, and we're now utilizing that technology right here for people that are dealing with Parkinson's. And so this is just an example. So being able to now be the chair of technology and innovation, one of the things I am, I guess, encouraged to really do, and one of the, I guess, things I'd like to see happen is to better educate the legislature in this area. This is an area I think people are very fearful about because we just don't understand it. It's new, but this is the future. And we have a lot of tech companies that are coming to Ohio, and it's really important that the legislature understands it. We have the knowledge, and we start meeting with people who've been doing this a long time to better educate us. And so that's really what I see my role as primarily right now as the chair, is to educate our committee and to also educate my colleagues in the legislature. So it's been exciting. The speaker has appointed me to two other commissions. One is the OFCC, the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, and we oversee any projects, school projects, community projects. For example, the Ashland Theater in Ashland, this was before I was in the House of Representatives. The process of getting the funding and the approval for the Ashland Theater went through OFCC. So to kind of see firsthand how that is taking place. Also, the other appointment I had is the PABA Task Force. It's a real long name, but the Public Assistance Benefits Accountability Task Force. So overseeing and providing a commission where you can dialogue the technology challenges for folks who are on public assistance to get their benefits. I don't know if you've ever tried to call JFS, how it can be very challenging to get someone on the line, or to be able to apply to be a foster parent, whatever that might be. The technology is out of date, and so how do we make it simpler and easier for people to get their benefits who really need it? So we've been able to work through that process as well. So it's been an incredible year on these committees. You learn a lot about topics. Some are very heart-wrenching testimonies as well, but the committee process is really where the bill process begins. So when a bill is assigned to a committee, we have a number of hearings, and then it is voted out of that committee. If it votes favorably out of the committee, then it goes to the House floor for session, and if it passes on the House floor, then it moves over to the other chamber, the Senate, and then it goes through the same process. Goes through the committee process, goes to the Senate, and then if it passes the Senate without any changes or modifications, then a bill goes to the governor to be signed into law or to be vetoed. And this General Assembly, the legislature has had to veto the governor this year. So it's been a very exciting year for sure. But Joe, you mentioned you wanted to hear about some of the bills as well. And let's talk about maybe the operation budget, because that is really where we got to work right away. And what I would mention is the operating budget is, we have the capital budget and we have the operating budget, and they happen in alternate years. So my first year in 23, we did the operating budget. And two of the things that I would highlight that are at least worth noting, or at least I'm very passionate about, that I was successful in getting in, my very first bill I introduced was a baby products tax exemption bill. And it actually was rolled into the budget, which is really great. So when we tried to make Ohio more family friendly, more pro-family, this is one way we can do that with inflation. So certain baby products, as of October of last year, are now tax exempt in the state of Ohio. So that bill rolled into the operating budget, exempts baby diapers and wipes, and then larger equipment like car seats, strollers, pack and plays, booster seats. There's a list on the Department of Taxation that folks can see, but that was probably the neatest thing, is to have a constituent reach out to me after that took place of October 1st of 2023, and I had someone in Ashland reach out and thanked me for pushing for that, because their family felt that relief the next time they went to the grocery store. So babies go through a lot of diapers and wipes, and so if we can help alleviate that cost for families, I'm not necessarily in for all the exemptions, but that's definitely one thing we can do to help families. And then another thing that was brought to my attention with the work I do at the Pregnancy Care Center is I have visited many of our children's hospitals, in particular visited the NICUs. And when babies are born prematurely, there is a breast milk fortifier that can be given to preemies so that they can grow stronger and get healthier and eliminate the length of time that they would need to stay in the hospital just because they're born very small. And what I learned from the nurses and some of the families is that this breast milk fortifier is not covered by insurance or by Medicaid. And so one of the things that I fought for in the budget was to get that breast milk fortifier covered, and we were able to accomplish that. So if there are any families in our state, if they're struggling with a baby being born prematurely and you have a length of time in the hospital, you don't have to worry about getting the life-saving care for your baby. It will be taken care of. So those were some wins for me personally with the work I do with the Pregnancy Care Center. But there's a lot of other great things. We simplified our tax code and operating budget from 4 brackets to 2 brackets. We eliminated nearly 90% of the CAT tax for local businesses, which was a huge win for our small business owners. We also, for education, we had not record, but historic funding for the Fair School Funding Plan. So we increased funding for our public schools, but we also increased funding for vouchers so that parents have a choice where they want to send their children. So families who could not afford another option other than public school, now they can apply for this voucher, like a scholarship to go to a private school or a Christian school, wherever they so choose to send their child, to make that available for all Ohioans instead of just under a certain level of income. So that is definitely, I feel, a big win for all Ohioans. We also, for economic and workforce development, that's one of the committees I'm on, we invested over $300 million in high school career tech facilities. We've got to make sure our workforce, they are talent ready for the industry when they graduate from high school or even college. So it's really important that our career centers, they've had a spike in enrollment, and so we need to make sure that they have the equipment necessary to meet that need. We also had, I was going to see if there's a couple other highlights that we had in the operating budget. There's so many things, but it's a big bill. But we got a lot done this General Assembly in the operating budget.
One more bill that I wanted to talk about was the Never Alone bill. Can we kind of elaborate on that?
Yes, absolutely. Joe, so one of the bills that has really been near and dear to my heart, one that was presented to me by a constituent early on when I started, actually February. I took office in January, and in February we began working on this bill. And if many people watching this update probably can recall personally or has a friend or neighbor that when COVID-19 was in effect, there were all kinds of regulations in practices where people had to be left alone in a hospital setting, a nursing home, a VA hospital, wherever that might be, because of the precautions, wanting to protect folks. I remember, and he's told me I have permission to do so, I remember during these precautions, these shutdowns, that I remember my husband had to go to the ER locally, and we didn't know what was going on. I remember he wasn't even able to walk. He had to crawl into the ER. We had no idea what was going on. And even locally, I was pushed out of the ER. I wasn't even allowed to go in with my husband. And that's a scary thing when your loved one cannot speak for themselves. You want someone to be able to be there. So the Never Alone Act is patient-driven, and it ensures that a loved one has access to an advocate. That's what we're calling them, an advocate. Basically, somebody that you love that can advocate for you, because sometimes we cannot advocate for ourselves. And quite honestly, too many people died alone during COVID. They weren't allowed to see their loved ones in those final moments. Or nursing homes. There were many loved ones that had to say goodbye or can only see their loved ones outside through a window. And we want to make sure that never happens again. Never again should people ever be left alone. So we've worked really hard on this bill to grant access for a patient to have a loved one, and it has passed unanimously out of our Health Provider Services Committee that I sit on. It's passed unanimously out of the House, and it now works its way through the Senate Health Committee. And I'm very hopeful that we can pass this before the end of the General Assembly, before the clock resets for us to start again the next General Assembly. So it is going through the process, and I'm very grateful for the brave men and women who came and testified and shared their personal stories, whether being a first responder or experiencing something personally, sharing their story. We appreciate their courage, and more people need to hear about that. So that bill, I think, will mean a lot for a lot of Ohioans. And so it's called the Never Alone Act. It's House Bill 236. And the other bill I will mention to you, a huge win already this year, Joe, is I had a bill that was signed into law by Governor DeWine this year. And what's exciting is it was a bill that was brought to me by a colleague, and he invited me to join him on this bill. It's a Cosmetology and Barber Modernization Act. So many people probably don't realize, but Ohio has some of the most regulations getting into certain industries. And particularly, Ohio is the heavily regulated when it comes to cosmetology and barber schools. For example, licensure, there's not reciprocity. So, for example, you could live in a neighboring state, and if you move to Ohio, it's the same schooling, same training, same education. But if you move to Ohio, you got to start all over again. You got to go back to school. They don't recognize your license. Or, for example, a barber, if they're taking the state exam, if they don't pass the exam, they got to go back to school for 200 plus hours, pay to go back to school before they can retake the exam. So there were just some things outdated in the code back from 2017 when the governor at the time, Governor Kasich, consolidated those boards into one. And the legislature's job is to update the Ohio Revised Code. So this bill modernizes, does some really important outdated changes to the code. And really, there's been a lot of red tape and barriers for people who want to go into this industry. And so Representative Romer and I worked together on this bill, and we are so thrilled. There has been no opposition on this bill, again, passed unanimously out of the House and in the Senate. And we are so excited that the governor signed it at opening day at the Ohio State Fair. And later this year in October, it will become law. And I will tell you, one of the coolest and greatest thrills about passing legislation is when you hear from people in the district that how this is helping them. I have had a councilwoman in Ashland where two of her, a daughter and granddaughter, are cosmetologists. One's going into school, how that's helping them. I've had other people in Ashland that have reached out that are owners of salons, and now their children want to go into the industry. That's what we're trying to do. We want to get people to work. We want people to be able to pursue their dreams, and cosmetology and barbering is an exciting and growing industry, and we want to make it easier. And so now, even at 16 years of age, young men and women can start the schooling to start that process if that's what they want to do. They don't necessarily have to wait until they're 18. They can start now at 16 once that law is enacted in Ohio. So I am really happy to hear how that's really helping Ohioans, and in particular people that I see at the grocery store on a weekly basis.
I know you've done a lot for the state, but I want to narrow down just to Ashland. If somebody come up to you and said, Melanie, what have you done for Ashland County? What would be your response?
Well, Joe, I would say, what have I done for Ashland County? I would say before I ran for office, one of the things that I admired former Senate President Bill Harris was that he was always one that advocated and was a strong voice for Ashland County when it came to the capital budget, making sure that those tax dollars were allocated back home in the district. And that's where it is all important. It's important that the people that you represent, that you go to bat and you fight hard around that table to explain and to advocate why those dollars need to come back home and for what projects. And so that was one of the things I shared that I wanted to deliver on was, if you will, bring home the bacon in many instances, is that I was going to go to bat for our community when monies became available. And I did just that. In the operating budget, we brought back $1.9 million to Ashland County. The sidewalk on Route 250 there. We have a lot of people that travel to Walmart on motorized scooters, and there isn't a walker out there. And I'm sorry, excuse me about that. There is not a sidewalk on Route 250 there. And so I was able to secure $175,000 for a sidewalk to be constructed for more safety for people who travel there. Also, our Ashland Theater, we were able to secure $25,000 for equipment for people with hearing impairments to be able to also enjoy that new state-of-the-art facility and to also enjoy that entertainment firsthand. And then Ashland University we're really fortunate in our wonderful sweet community of Ashland to have a university, and they have some really unique programming that needed our support, and we were able to renew that. 500,000, 500,000, and 700,000 for the Military and Veterans Project, for our Center for Addictions, and our university's correctional education program. So that's about 1.9 million for through the operating budget we were able to bring back to Ashland County. And then just this past year, we had the capital budget, and for the first time ever, we had a one-time funding from our Strategic Community Investment Fund. Basically, those were some dollars that were allocated from the operating budget to be moved for this one-time funding for community projects. Just for Ashland County alone, I was able to secure $4.4 million to come back to Ashland County. And one of the primary ones that the whole county will get to enjoy is the Ashland County Fairgrounds is getting $1.1 million to renovate and to rebuild the Moselle Hall into an Ashland Civic Center, so that the whole community can enjoy this for special events, for all of the fair and agriculture events that take place. It's also a polling location in our community. So the county fairgrounds is a huge place for entertainment, and many of our fairs across the state are beginning to make these improvements, and so we're thrilled that our community is getting one as well. I love that even some of our smaller communities like Hayesville is getting a pedestrian walkway. Roseburg Community Center is getting some renovations and updates done to their roof and gutters. We also have the $200,000 is going for the Ashland Fire Training Center, so that all the men and women who are wearing that uniform, protecting us, running into danger to protect us from a house fire, whatever that might be, all of our men and women in with fire departments in all of Ashland County will get to train at their own facility, right? It'll be located in the city of Ashland, but it's for all of Ashland County. But then we also have the Davy McClure Outdoor Education Center. They're also getting some funding as well to finish that project to honor the late Davy McClure. That'll be a wonderful education shelter for the whole community. Also, Hugo Young Theater is getting funding as well for renovations. Again, that is a place that many of our local ballets utilize as well for entertainment. And of course, some infrastructure things that are needing upgraded, like a sewer district lift station in both Cinnamon Lake and in Savannah. And other projects are also our new child care, our foundation's community child care center. They're getting over $100,000 for some additional storage, a generator, and some other safety things that they need to make sure that new facility is operational at all times. So all in all, we did very well in Ashland County for the operations budget. And so I look forward to continuing the conversation in the district to learn what are the dreams, what are the projects that our communities are looking forward to doing, or what those needs are, so we can start getting our list ready for the next capital budget cycle.
So you're wrapping up the first 2 years, and you're actually unopposed this time, so you're going to have another 2 years. What's that look like?
Well, I am honored to hopefully earn people's vote to serve them another term in the Ohio legislature. I think what I will continue to truly do is be as present as I can be in the district. We are going to be beginning a series of coffee and conversations, an informal opportunity just to get to know folks in the district, to hear what's going on, issues that are important to you, and for you to meet your state representative. But I'm going to continue to fight for the district when these opportunities for funding become available. But also, I think as a legislator, my goal is not to create a ton of laws. Sometimes the best thing I can do is vote no on things to not allow a ton of laws to take place. But I want to continue to be available and extend the invitation for folks in the district. If you've never been to the Ohio State House, I would love for you to come and visit, and we can give you a tour. You can come inside of the House chamber. We can have a visit. This is a wonderful place, and honestly, I don't think people realize the State House, this is the people's house. You can come at any time. I invite you to come to a committee, to session, and to be able to be a part of this process. quite honestly, for me, I remember when I first started as a director of our pregnancy care center, I was invited to Columbus on numerous occasions to give testimony on legislation. And I really felt that that was what began stirring my heart for wanting to do more and wanting to serve in this capacity. And when the opportunity became available, I prayed and felt the Lord was leading me in this way. And so it has been an honor and a privilege to serve you as your state representative. And I appreciate you giving me the honor to be your voice, and contact me at any time. So we'll make sure you have our email and our phone number. And if this is coming out before the Ashland County Fair, we are going to have our own state representative booth in the Gold Merchant building.
Thank you so much, Melanie.
You're welcome, Joe. Thank you.